Becoming a digital nomad is going to take some planning. Discover what your criteria would be. For me, whatever country I choose to live in, and I've been researching it now for a year, this is what's most important for me. And it's important for everybody, honestly. You must have money and income in order to get a visa. I think it's important to learn the language. For me, I also want to live in a place where I don't need a car. Right now, I don't want to buy a car. I don't want to have a car. I live in an area where I do not need a car, and that's been since the lockdown. I'm super lucky. I want everything to be accessible by biking, except when I go to travel in other cities. So that's important. I must have water. I must be able to bike everywhere. I want to be able to learn the language. Therefore, I want to immerse myself in the culture. I also want the ability to converse with other people, of course, in that language. I don't want to be around a lot of expats. Now, that sounds snobby, I realize. The expats can be from Europe, but I don't want to be amongst a bunch of Americans. So that's really important to me also. Therefore, find out what your areas are as far as criteria. 4 things that are really important when you're choosing a place to research whether or not to live there, to be a digital nomad. Again, it's the money, it's the income. That's very important. The ability to converse in their language, even if it's at a basic level. Learn the housing situation, because there are some countries where they don't even have long-term rentals. They're more accessible as far as vacation properties. If that's the case, then, for instance, with Portugal, they have T1, T2, and T3. So T1 is a 1-bedroom, T2 is a 2-bedroom, and so on. It's easier to rent a 2-bedroom from what I've researched. That's why it takes some planning to become a digital nomad, especially when you're at my age in life. I think some people who are a little bit younger, may be much easier for them to pull up roots and pack their bags and get over to a foreign country and start working. But those are the most important criteria: is to have the money, show the income, figure out where you want to live, learn the language at least a little bit, and immerse yourself in the culture. That's super important if you're going to become a digital nomad. Why else do this? Now, I know if you're talking to friends and family, many of them are going to worry about this because it's risky and it's adventurous. There is a Kriya in Kundalini Yoga that will help you. It's called Fear of Future, and it's eliminating the fear of future. It's a breathing technique, and you only have to do it for 3 minutes, but it will help you have clarity so that you can choose to do a big, scary dream. I'm a huge believer in taking big risks. So practice that Kriya. The podcast details, it's in my podcast details. As a matter of fact, Nick from Algarve Addicts has done another interview with a gentleman who is from Ukraine, and he has been a digital nomad for many, many years, and he happens to be exploring Portugal also. That link is in my podcast details. Liz Sharma, my Portuguese teacher, has also discovered ways to work with the D7 visa. Not so much the digital nomad, but she does help people get experienced in learning how to get a visa in Portugal, besides being an amazing teacher. Her links will be in the next podcast. So practice the Kundalini Yoga Kriya, because it will really help you get over any kind of fear of the future if you're afraid of taking risks. This is the season for weddings. Now, I really believe beautiful wines can make beautiful gifts. You have to do a little research, but I've already done that for you. I've listed a few domestic wines. Of course, they're from California, because most people are very much impressed. I have delved into one of the most stunning, spectacular wines from California. It's not from Napa Valley. It's actually up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, but it's Ridge Montebello. This particular vineyard has been around since the 1800s. I've included a video. It's a really interesting historical video on how this vineyard was created, because it has history of back in the 1870s, and it was nothing back in the 1870s like it is now. It's really a stunning piece of property. You can do tastings there. You have to reserve them in advance. Perhaps if you know someone a wedding couple who has just been married and they are traveling to California, I would give them as a gift, tickets to their wine tastings. I believe they are $75, but these are some of the most exquisite wines in the world. I myself am not a domestic wine connoisseur. Well, I am a connoisseur, but not of domestic wines, but these are some of the most stunning that even when I used to sell them, I could sell them because, I'm a Francophile. So that's a really great wedding gift idea. Is I would get them a bottle of wine, and I would also get the tickets for a wine tasting in Ridge Montebello. Yes, is that pricey? Absolutely. You're going to drop about $400. The Montebello wines are very expensive. They're very limited. They're about $200 a bottle. Well worth it if you want to do a memorable wedding gift. There are also other wines, Monsieur Etienne. There is Scarecrow. Those two are from the same vineyard. ZD Chardonnay is very affordable, and the vineyards, they are in Napa. They're wonderful. They're fun to go to the tastings. These are top-notch domestic wines, and that's why I'm suggesting that if you're going to do a wedding gift that is memorable, choose some of these wines. Being the Francophile, of course, you want to get Bilcar Saman, the exquisite Champagne, also a Chachon Rocher by Philippe Collin. He has a new Burgundy producer, just a stunning wine. I believe in spending some money if you're going to do a wedding gift. To wrap this up, it takes planning to become a digital nomad. It's not something that most people would just say, I'll shuck it. I'm going to Provence, and I'm going to live in the middle of nowhere. Just make sure you have an internet connection, right? So take some planning. Figure out your criteria, because it's, as I mentioned, it's super important that I can ride a bike wherever I'm going to live. It's important where I can see the water. Oh, I want a pool. This is doable. I've been looking to where I want to start exploring Portugal. Try to learn the basic language. Practice this Kriya. The link is on my podcast, and it helps you with fear of the future. We all have fear of the future. Lastly, beautiful ideas for wedding wines. You don't have to have the splurge factor. If you need any help at all, I have been selling French wine and domestic wines for 23 years. I know the top dogs. I know where you can find them. Send me a DM. Go on my email. All this stuff is all my contact information is on my podcast details. To wrap this up, I'm Valerie Hale. I create this podcast once a week to help people create a blueprint for their life, including becoming a digital nomad. I also have public speaking, the fear of public speaking courses online. They are private. That link is also on my podcast details. Merci, au revoir.